Hello, East Brunswick. It's December 7th, Monday, and I just wanted to give everybody an update on what's going on related to COVID and many of the other things that are going on in town, which are important. First, as many of you know, cases continue to rise throughout the area, and East Brunswick is certainly not any different than anybody else. We are a little bit more fortunate. Our rate of increase is a little slower than the state. The state, as many of you know, had a record-breaking 6,000 cases on over the weekend, and fortunately, we're not seeing as rapid of a rise as the state is. But our numbers have, like the state, continued to go up. Some of the reasons I think that we may be doing better than the state as at large is the fact that we do have better access here to healthcare and to testing. There's county testing sites, there's testing sites at the doctor's offices, and we do make ourselves, avail ourselves of them much better than many other places, especially when you can compare it to a lot of inner cities where the ability to get testing is difficult. We also are generally following guidelines, which I'm thankful for. They're pretty simple: keeping distances, washing hands, using masks, keeping parties and groupings down to a minimum. And we as a town have been proactive, whether it's the township, whether it's been our school system, our houses of worship, many of our organizations. We've taken proactive steps, and I think it's beginning to show why our numbers have risen a little slower than the state in general. Speaking of the state and the county, we are working with them as we are looking to identify testing sites and potential sites to be used for delivery of vaccines. One of the things that there is an emphasis on is the ability to do the vaccines and testing in a drive-through mentality, so that you could drive in one door and exit through another. And so the county and the state we're working with both of them to try to identify such locations here and throughout the county. When we're talking about COVID responses here from the town, there's a lot of updates and things I'd like you to be aware of, and so I'm going to pivot to that conversation. First of all, I have to go back on my original promise, and that was that we would open up the municipal complex as cases rise. I'm recognizing that we simply need to continue to exercise the type of restrictions we were doing before. It's for the safety of our community and the safety of our employees. You need to realize we've done a good job over the last couple of years of keeping our employees to responsible levels. So we don't have batter's boxes of departments that could step in if people get sick. So we really need to be extraordinarily careful with how we deploy our employees, and it's only the right thing. These are our employees, and we need to look out for their health as much as I look out for everyone else's. If you do need anything at the municipal complex, please email any department or call. And we've been functioning well since March doing that. We're just going to have to continue that a little bit longer. We are still having stores opening despite what everybody thinks about the economy, and certainly we are having problems with revenues, and we all know that there's people that are struggling. But on the bright side, we are having stores open up in the middle of this pandemic right here in East Brunswick. The Cube Smart opened up right by the Kmart building. The Chateau Grand Hotel, which is the hotel that's now associated with the Park Chateau, opened. They have just opened this past weekend, a soft opening for David's Burke's Orchard Park, which is a really high-end restaurant that's going to be available to all residents here in East Brunswick. And so I do want to recognize that there are some bright spots. I'm not blind, however, to the fact that there's people and businesses that are struggling. So many are in trouble, many have already closed, many face certainly a difficult next few months as we approach the cold weather. And with that in mind, with our restaurant and bar businesses, we are responding to the new executive order that the governor put out. asking that they renew their UCC licenses to make sure that any outdoor facilities can handle snow, and there's a snow remediation mechanism, and that they also get inspections from fire departments for any outdoor heaters. The township and our township council waived any fees for them to do that. They will be prioritized if they go to our planning and engineering department in order to get those approvals, and we're certainly hoping that our fire districts and fire marshals provide the same level of consideration as they look for their approvals for any type of outdoor heaters. Redevelopment. I know that that's been a topic I was talking a lot about both through the election, through the last couple of years. That's still moving. We've got a lot of work that's going on with that, and I'm happy to report that 39 Edgeboro Road, that's the area where we're going to be building a 500,000 square foot fulfillment center. The developers expect that to be finished in the early part of 2021. They were actually fortunate enough to get FedEx as one of their clients, and so it actually required that the building be expanded a little bit, and they needed the use of a parking lot that now sits on the MCUA property, for which we got absolutely no tax revenue. That's a tax-exempt organization. However, now that it's going to be used for a parking lot for this building, it's being converted to taxable property. And so as the 39 Edgeboro comes on board, what was originally going to be an increase in the tax base is going to be even larger because of the parking expansion that they needed to accomplish in order to get that project done. 110 Tices is the project that's by the Wonder Bread Factory. Most of you may have seen that that's already been pretty much demolished. That was approved through the Planning Board and the Township Council for the project that's going to include part residential, part commercial, and in return for that development, which also helps satisfy a good portion of our affordable housing obligation, they will be widening Tices Road from Route 18 all the way to Harts Lane. That's going to be a 5-lane road, 2 lanes in either direction with turning lanes into each of those developments. They're going to be doing a lot of work on the property to fix stormwater drainage. They're going to be fixing the light intersection at Renee Road, and they're donating back to the town about 8 acres, which we're going to be using for a public purpose ice rink, which hopefully will be something that the entire township can enjoy. And they're also paying for all the site work for that rink. So that's exciting work, and that's probably things you're going to start to see in the early part of 2021. The River project, which was the Route 18 project that encompasses the old Gap and the Wiz and the area where Lohman's used to be, River Development was the contractor which was awarded the contract. Now is in partnership with Ed Russo from Russo Development, who was one of the largest developers in all of New Jersey, who's going to be helping finance and work with River to get that project off the ground. They're already in the process of negotiating with some of the property holders, and I expect that you should be able to see some really unique and interesting designs for what we expect on that project. Something, again, that will be done over a couple of years, but it's really exciting, and they are looking forward to next year to share that with all of us. The redevelopment agency itself is looking at other locations, both on 18 and in and around Route 18, because as we all know, as we're dealing with this pandemic and the economic fallout that's followed, there's a lot of buildings, a lot of uses, a lot of commercial that's fallen into obsolescence. And so one of the purposes of our redevelopment agency is to not let that happen, to try to figure out how that could be repurposed into areas that could be useful and beneficial to the residents, the township, and our tax base. So that's all been going on, and we're hoping for that to continue. With our public library, many of you know that with the rise in cases, we had to close indoor service. That will be completely reevaluated after the new year based on case rates and what else is going on in the community. But as you know, we still have curbside pickup. There's a vast array of online programs and services. So please go online and avail yourself of a lot of the programs. Some of them are really unique and interesting and innovative. I want to touch a couple of seconds on finance. I know we are in the middle of an economic collapse and crisis that's around us, and we are, as a town, like almost any other town, dealing with the fact that we have significantly decreased revenues coming into the town. But one of the benefits here in East Brunswick is that we've always been managed from a fiscal standpoint in a very, very strong way, and we've got healthy fund balances. We've got a excellent collection ratio despite the pandemic, and we know there's people who've lost jobs and are having a tough time, but our collection ratio remains high, and we carry an extremely low debt ratio compared to a lot of other towns. All of that translates into credit agencies in a way that provides us with incredibly good credit and extraordinarily low interest rates at a time when interest rates are already very low. So as a result, one of the things that we've been able to do is to refinance much of our debt at much, much lower interest rates. That should all help us. Our present debt ratio, which is defined as the total amount of municipal debt as a percentage of equalized property values in town. That debt ratio right now stands at 0.6%, which is an extraordinarily low number. Most other towns of our size have debt ratios that are 4 to 5 times that. That 0.6% would be even lower. It would be more like 0.45% if it were not for a $15 million bond that needs to be carried on the books. That $15 million bond was approved last year in the event that the township needed to help developers in acquiring property on Route 18. But so far, the parties have been in the process of negotiating in good faith, and we haven't needed to actually even take that bond out. So the fact is that we approved it means that it needs to sit on our books, but we've never actually borrowed the money, and we're hoping that we never will, which means that if we could do away with that and the negotiations proceed as we're expecting, our debt ratio would be even lower. That's not to say that everything is rosy. We've had losses this year in our pool utility and in our parking utility. Clearly, with COVID and the restrictions that we had to have for gathering, the pool was not able to have as many people as we traditionally have, and so this year there was a loss in the pool utility. Parking utility, as we all know, many people were working from home, and there was a lockdown for several months, and I'm not even 100% certain what a post-COVID world is going to look like. But the governor did allow, through a recent executive order, for towns to write off in their utilities those losses over a 5-year period of time. We've taken advantage of that. Now, it does allow us, by doing that, to avoid going to the township to make up for those losses. And I'm hoping that as the pandemic passes and as revenues return, that we'll be able to get to a place where we can actually pay off some of those debts before we actually even need to finish paying off the 5-year debt. And we're also hoping that that the volume at the pool utility will go back up pretty quickly, and clearly not really sure what a post-COVID world is going to look like when it comes to commuting, but we'll take that one step at a time. I'm sure there's going to be a bounce back to some degree, and that will help get that utility back to some level of solvency. The Parks and Recreation Department, as you know, the governor came out with new and continues to come out with new executive orders limiting outdoor sports, limiting outdoor and indoor gathering. I do ask you to check with the department's Facebook page or their website. They have a complete list of programs, those that have been halted due to some of those EOs, some that may be limited, and they actually have a really good website that allows you to review all of their online programs and activities. And again, some of them are extraordinarily innovative, and we want you to participate, even if it has to be virtually. Spring 2021, frankly, at this point, can't come fast enough. I'm hoping that by that point, as the vaccines are out and part of the pandemic then seems to be behind us, we'll be able to reopen for some of our outdoor events, our outdoor sports, and outdoor programs. Our Arts Department has several, Arts Commission has several online programs that they are supporting. I certainly would ask that you go on to their Facebook page and the Parks and Recs Facebook page to avail yourself to some of those. One of the things we're actually interesting, we're looking to do is an art installation at the Community Arts Center come the spring. We're working with one of our Arts Commissioner participants to try to put together an installation commemorating or marking this year of 2020. It's obviously such a landmark year. And one of the other things we're going to ask township and different organizations to participate in is in burying a time capsule that commemorates 2020 with all the things that maybe people 75, 100 years from now can look back as mementos and tokens and art and information that's available while it's still fresh in your mind. And we're going to put that also at the Community Arts Center. We're going to ask for community involvement in that project. Our senior center, while it's been closed and was one of the first places to close during this pandemic all the way back in early March, they do have several online programs for those that do take themselves and make themselves available have the capacity to use our online services. There's also been drive-by programs, and almost all of the services that they provide, we're trying to continue both online or by phone. So please keep in touch with that department. Our planning, engineering, and construction department, that's actually considered an essential business. They never shut down. Some of the projects that they're working on is working on the site plans for the hockey rink that I just, or ice rink that I just mentioned. It's something that, like I said, is planned for on the 110 Tysus site, or the old Wonder Bread site, towards the back of the property behind near where the Lowe's is located. There's a ton of work that they are working on putting together for road work. Clearly, most of you know we have municipal work, there's county work that's done, and then there's state work. Our municipal road projects are done through capital improvements, and we've devoted anywhere between $2 to $4 million per year over our municipal roads. We continue and will intend to continue as best as we can on that capital improvement projects. We also expect to get in our freight grant, which is something that was provided by the state for freight roads, and we've gotten approval for close to $1 million to help redo and repave a good portion of Edgeboro Road. That should be starting next year, as well as our DOT Transportation Trust Fund money. The 2021 money is going to be geared towards repaving Riva. Many of you know that we already got approved for our 2022 funding, which would be for Fern Road. If the funds are available for us to be able to start some of those roads early, then of course we will. One of the other things that the department is looking to do in 2021 is to move from the present location in the municipal complex to Harts Lane, where our DPW building is located. There's a natural overlap between both departments. The second floor of that building is completely empty, and some of the things that change will allow for would be to bring EBTV over to the municipal building, will allow us to expand our IT department and our EBPD, both of which is kind of busting at the seams for extra space. It will allow us to do some of the long-awaited and needed security upgrades to our municipal building, and it will also allow for some of the parking for a lot of the people that work in that building to be done over as they work in Harts, ends up freeing up parking in our municipal parking lot, which will be a huge benefit, especially for our public library, which is constantly, when the non-COVID world, running out of parking space. DPW will continue to do its road management as it's been doing. Leaf pickup, I've seen a lot of people complaining on social media why that hasn't been done timely. We're doing the best we can. Dates that we provide online, by the way, are generally only estimates, but keep in mind we have people working for us that, again, like I mentioned earlier, might have been exposed to COVID and are quarantining, so our departments don't have big batter's boxes. So we are getting to all of the needs as quickly as we possibly can, but we need to have, all of us need to have a little bit of patience. They will get that work done. Our recycling department, clearly with more people staying home now, there's been a lot more recycling, but I think one of the things we're going to invest a little time in next year is an educational initiative so that we all could be aware of what is and is not appropriate for recycling and how we can actually do that in a way that helps save the town money, because clearly whenever we put out stuff that can't be recycled, you're risking those trucks going to their recycling centers, and if they're not accepted because they've got too much things in those bins that were not recyclable, they get then sent over to the landfill. It gets weighed, we have to pay for it, and it gets dumped in our landfill. So we really need to do a much better job trying to get everybody educated on how to recycle appropriately, and that's a high priority for me. But really, what I'm asking everybody to do over the next couple months is to just, hang in there. We've only got a couple of months till vaccines are hopefully around the corner, and it's through vaccines that we really have the real hope to eradicate coronavirus and to be able to return to somewhat of a normal way of life that we've kind of put on the back burner for the better part of the last year. So I ask that everybody remain vigilant, careful, follow our guidelines. We all know what they are now. We don't have to keep repeating them. Have compassion for those who have less. Please reach out your hand for our seniors and for those with disabilities who could use assistance. Consider helping those who are without jobs, especially as this time of the holidays, those with food insecurity, more people than you could ever possibly know. Not only through the holidays, not only through this pandemic, but always. And remember that in the words of Muhammad Ali, service to others is the rent that you pay for your room here on earth. So be well and stay safe.